really excited to be here, and it's really nice to meet some of the people that I've met online and some of the really top celebrity names in the world of eye cancer as well. That's quite exciting as well. But if you'll just bear with me or humour me for just 1 minute, because this is the first time I've ever been on video, and I would just like to just wave at the camera and say hello to this is going to really embarrass them, but I want to say hello to my 3 children. I want to say, hi Alex, hi Ben, hi Jess, and I just want to tell you how much I love you. Right, so going on, thank you for that. Going on with the presentation now. As the slide says, as you've probably gathered, I'm an eye cancer patient and I've got a poor prognosis. It's a very personal perspective. Ian spoke at the beginning of this conference yesterday about one of the important things in our cancer or any disease is about looking at data rather than opinions. And although, well, I just need to say this is opinions, it is such a personal thing, is something like this. So there is a place for personal perspective as well. Although it's my personal perspective, I have drawn on so many people in this room, the comments I've found on the support group on Facebook and the things that people have shared so bravely. And I will, with permission, share just a couple of comments. I won't mention who said them, but just a couple of words here and there that really resonated with me and really certainly helped me as well. On the personal perspective bit, I think I just wanted to just recognise, as many people have said, a cancer diagnosis really is life-changing. And one of the things Professor D'Amato was saying yesterday about prognostication, I think one of the reasons why the wonderful medical professionals who've introduced this, one of the things they thought about prognostication was that it would really help reduce uncertainty for patients. If you knew you were poor prognosis, not brilliant, but at least you can deal with it. If you're good prognosis, you can get on with your life and forget about it. And I wasn't at the conference last year, but I watched some of the videos on YouTube that were on the Ocular website. And Professor Hyman was here from Liverpool Oncology Centre, and he presented some research last year, and he said they were really interested in the findings. They thought prognostication would really help alleviate uncertainty. And although they found that it has really benefited patients in a number of ways, one thing it hasn't alleviated is that uncertainty. So everybody faces challenges of uncertainty, whether you've got a good prognosis, an intermediate prognosis, a poor prognosis, or indeed, like many people in this room, no prognosis at all. It's still difficult. We still face uncertainty. And in fact, just to quote from Professor Hyman from the last, from his slides, I've not put them up here, but he said their findings at Liverpool is that a good result doesn't necessarily alleviate worry about cancer spread, and a poor result doesn't necessarily engender hopelessness. And one of the comments I saw on the Facebook group, which really struck me, was an individual saying that they got their poor prognosis 2 years ago. I still haven't spoken to anyone about it, and I still haven't dealt with it. And that's some of the issues that we have to deal with as patients. I'm not also, so it's from a poor prognosis perspective, but recognising everyone in this room has challenges. And also, it's from my perspective as a patient. And I'd just like to also acknowledge that about probably half of the people in this room are supporting someone with eye cancer. And you've got the double challenge almost of supporting that person that you love, as well as dealing with your own hopes or your own fears about this. I can just see a little cuddle going on at the front, which is very nice. And can we just give a big, either a cuddle or a big thank you to those people who are supporting us. So, and obviously, what's right for one is not for another, and I'm simply offering my thoughts. So, my credentials, I couldn't dream of stand up here or sit down here and talk about finding something good in a poor prognosis if that wasn't my experience myself. So, my experience, diagnosis last December, enucleation in January, I received my poor prognosis in February and I was confirmed with metastatic disease in my liver in September. So it's all happened quite suddenly for me. But I just wanted to say that I do have some idea of how you feel if you're sitting in this room with a poor prognosis. I won't say that I know exactly how you feel, because everyone responds differently, but I am, I guess, as qualified as anyone possibly is to talk about this. And I think possibly maybe at the next conference, if people would volunteer to Ian to maybe talk about their views, their experiences either of poor prognosis or intermediate prognosis or some of the other challenges we're facing. I think that's really useful for people to share those things. So, moving on. So, some of you will recognise this quote from the bard himself, William Shakespeare, from Hamlet. There is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So, I think along with his other skills, talents, Shakespeare was also a bit of a psychologist, and in fact actually this concept that nothing actually that happens is either good or bad, it's just the way that we think about it. It's sort of the basis of positive thinking, it's a basis of modern cognitive behavioural therapy, and I've got a little book that one of my younger daughters has got, How to Be Happy, in text speak, and they do sort of a silly game in here for teenagers or younger than teenagers. It's called bad thing, good thing. So you think of something bad and then you think of something good about it. So for 11-year-olds, it's thinking, oh, it's raining today, we can't go out in the playground. Bad thing. Good thing, we can get to stay in and play on the computers. Bad thing, there aren't enough computers for everybody, we might not get one. Good thing, we got one last time. Bad thing, we might not get one this time. Good thing, we can play date, marry, dump, etc. You get the idea. So that's sort of the basis of there's nothing actually, it's not good that it's raining, it's not bad that it's raining, it's just what you make of it. And that's all very well. I can already hear you say this because I said this to myself. That's fine for something like rain or playtime, but, you know, for big things, the Indonesian earthquake, being told you're probably going to die of eye cancer in the next sort of couple of years, surely some things are not, it's not about how you think about them, some things surely are just bad. It must be that simple. Maybe even Shakespeare was wrong. So, again, I have cribbed this without shame, shamelessly, from the group online. And these are some of the things that I have sort of observed myself, some of the responses, not only of people necessarily with poor prognosis, but people trying to give support and comfort to people with a poor prognosis. One is optimism, it might never happen. You know what? That's absolutely right. I don't know, I can't say for certain, I can only say for me, but I mean, even I've got, or before my meta diet were confirmed, even I had my poor prognosis gave me about a 20% chance of being here in 10 years' time. So it's not definite, you're not definitely going to die, so that's absolutely worth hanging on to. And it's a really good point. Another one, which I think is I see this time and time again in the group, and I think it's so brilliant and so important, it's this pragmatism. Don't worry too much about the future. Make the most of every day, every minute. Enjoy what you've got. Be grateful for what you've got. And I think that type of thinking comes through again and again in all the research. That is a really great way to live our life if you can. It's hard to do it when you get, taken away with all the busyness of life. But that is a really good recipe for happiness if you can build that into your life, whatever your situation. And I think we see that a lot on the Facebook group. This last one makes me laugh. I've called it fatalism, which probably isn't the right word, but I was running out of isms. But this idea that you might, I've seen this so many times and people have said it to me. I mean, don't worry about it. You might get run over by a bus tomorrow. And I know what people mean, and it's also a really good approach, I think, because what people, I think, are saying here is you can't control your life. You might have all these wonderful plans, but life does have a way of getting in the way. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what's around the corner. Don't worry about things that you can't control. And so that is another common response I see to this very, very difficult situation of uncertainty that all cancer patients find themselves in. And if I can just digress, I'm just checking my time because I promised. Am I 10 minutes in?
Not yet.
Okay. Now I will have a little play then, a little bit of fun for just a moment. 9 minutes. Okay, so I can take a moment out on this slide because this quite amused me actually. It shows what amuses me in my quieter moments. So I was thinking, you know, this killer bus driver who goes round knocking people over every day. I mean, it's a real menace on our roads. We need to do something about this killer bus driver. And I thought, well, you know, we're raising all this money for cancer research. We probably should sort of divert some of it away from cancer research into training for bus drivers so that we have fewer mortalities in the UK. So I did actually have a look online to see what are the actual chances of me dying, being run over by a bus. I just thought this was quite interesting. And actually, there aren't any actual statistics for the chances of being run over by a bus, but the Department of Transport do publish the chances of dying in a bus-related incident. So that could be a crash with a whole coach of everybody dying, including bus drivers. So I think we need to let bus drivers off the hook a little bit because it's they're almost as likely to be killed in a bus-related incident as anyone else in this room. Anyway, I was actually quite surprised. Go on, how many people in an average year in the UK killed in a bus-related incident? Any guesses?
5.
I would have thought that. It was actually higher. Any other ideas?
100.
Sorry? 100, not bad, yeah. It was actually about 120 in the year I looked. So a 2 in 1 million chance of being killed, me, anybody in this room, being killed in a bus-related incident. And that really surprised me because we all know, we're all familiar with the 6 in 1 million, aren't we? We know that figure, don't we? Chances of anyone getting eye cancer in a year, 6 in 1 million. So actually, don't know if it makes everyone feel any better, but you're almost as likely to get run over by a bus as you are to get eye cancer. So, and then this is the chances of me dying from metastatic disease from my prognosis over 10 years. So you can see that familiar curve that we all know and love. And yeah, 86% chance of me dying. And I have put it just, I don't know why, I put it as a 820,000 in 1 million. 820,000 in 1 million. There are, of course, not 1 million eye cancer sufferers in the UK, so that's a nonsense number, but I was just playing, really. But, oh, and sorry, what I meant to say, which is really, really, really important, and I nearly forgot to say, that is my personal prognosis. I don't want anyone in this room looking at that number and thinking that might apply to you. Everybody has a different prognosis. That is mine. Nobody else can have it. I'm keeping that for me, okay? So I don't want anybody getting panicky by that. If you haven't had a prognosis or you've got a different prognosis, that's my personal one, yeah. So this, for me, what I found is, just going back to that for a moment, I am quite data-driven. I do like to look at things rationally. I'm quite emotional as well, but I do like to look at things realistically. And to me, it is quite funny about the bus and the eye cancer. You have got to laugh. But there is no comparison to me between you might get run over by a bus or you might die from, you know, your metastatic disease. They're completely different. And so for me personally, rather than just coping with or dealing with or finding a way to normalise my prognosis, I found that I needed to move beyond that mindset that said it might never happen. I wanted to do that. Now, I know that won't be right for many people. Many people might want to stay in that mindset because, as I said at the beginning, it is true, it might not ever happen. And that's a really valid place to be. And if that works for you, you stay there. For me, it didn't work to stay there. I looked at that lovely survival curve. I saw those 2 people at the bottom. Yeah, one of them might be me. One of them might have my name on it. But I had to say to myself, okay, it might not happen, but it almost certainly will, as far as I'm concerned. Those numbers mean it almost certainly will. And for me, it was really important to go through a process where I accepted that, where I didn't try to pretend it might not happen. I didn't try to pretend it was one of those things that was as unlikely as a bus running me over. I had to find a place that I could accept that. And this is a little thing that the last bullet point is acceptance of the things that happen to us and the people that we are ourselves. That's a really important thing for all of us to be able to do. And I will read this bullet point, because until we honestly and openly accept our present situation, we can't find peace. It's really hard to do that. So for me personally, and again, I drew from the group, thank you. I keep on saying this, but I draw so much from the group. These are some of the steps that I took, not knowingly, but when I was thinking about giving this talk, I was trying to think about what actually I did, and I've seen other people do some of these same things. I found it was important to grieve for the future that I might not have. And I really hope people don't mind me just saying some of these words, because you might recognise them, but I won't name names. Another individual who just received their poor prognosis came online and said, last night the tsunami hit. It hit this individual, the sheer impact of what they had learnt. And what was really nice, forgive me, but what was really nice, a day or two later that same person came on and said they'd been in tears again in the night, but the difference this time was that their partner had been up in the night and in tears with them. And they were grieving alongside each other. And some things we can't fix, and some things, the partners in this room, you can't fix for your loved ones. And sometimes the only thing we can do is get down alongside the person we love and grieve with them. And that can be really powerful and really supportive. And another example I saw online is people just being caught in the moment of thinking, oh, in a wonderful, happy Mother's Day situation or a Christmas Day or a birthday, this might be my last one. You know, it's about grieving, it's about coming to terms with, and within that, valuing the experiences that you're having. The second one I've put up here is adjusting your mental life expectancy. Everyone will have a different view of this. My own great-grandmother lived till about, she hit 100, she got her telegram from the Queen. My grandma died in her mid-90s, my mum's going strong in her 80s. I just thought, at 50, I'm barely halfway through my life. Death is something so far away, it hadn't even entered my head, really. And I found it was quite important for me personally to start thinking of, I don't know whether older people do this who are naturally reaching the end of their lives, that people in their 80s or 90s do start to think of this naturally. And people maybe 2 generations ago who hit 50 would also be thinking that, they are coming to the end of their lives, or, they only have a few years left. And I found that really, instead of assuming that death is this distant 20, 30 years ago, I tried to get used to the idea that I probably won't see 60, that I won't be retiring, that there won't be things I'll be doing. And therefore I just have a different perspective on it. And it's like putting on a pair of shoes or a hat. You start to get used to the idea. You start to get used to how it feels. And another way of looking at this, again from the group, is I was talking to someone who had decided not to have a prognostic biopsy. And I was asking them why they had made that decision. And they were in their 60s. And they said, you know what? Half of my family died in their 50s. I never expected to get this far. It doesn't matter. I'm living on borrowed time anyway. Every day is a benefit. So for that person, that really is a perfect example of this good thing, bad thing. She wasn't bothered about a prognostic thing because she was already living longer than she expected to, because if you've got it in your head, that's what you expect. It just starts to become not so... You accept it more. Third thing, this can be quite difficult and it may sound really obvious or really stupid. Name your fears. But what are your fears? There can be so many different ones. I've scribbled some down here. What frightens you about this prospect of illness and death? We've all got to die. What is it that frightens you? And can you do something about it? So is it living with this uncertainty? We all have that, the anxiety. How can you do something about making sure that doesn't control your life? Is it the medical treatments and the side effects? Is it knowing you're leaving dependent children or a dearly loved partner? Are you scared of what it will feel like to die or who will take care of you in those last days and weeks? Are there unresolved regrets, angers, resentments, relationships that need healing, spiritual or religious issues to deal with? But the good thing is, we've not been run over by a bus suddenly. We have got time. We've got time to work out what we are upset about and what worries us and what frightens us, and we have got time to do something about it. And that is one of the gifts of prognostication as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't relieve anxiety, but it does give us time, and it does give us a modicum of control over what happens to us. Number 4, I won't spend long on this because I've said it already. This is going back to the live for the moment, refocus and reprioritise what really matters to you. Clear out the clutter, and I don't mean just the clutter in your house, the clutter of all that stuff and all those people and all those things that take up your time and your life that are not important and do not bring meaning to your life. Really focus on the things that matter to you. One brilliant quote again from the online community. Somebody came on and said, "Today I've had a big clear out of my friends," she said. And everybody went on and said, "Way, good for you." Because, yeah, you should, that's, we've got one life and we make the most of our time here, yeah. So fill your life with the people and things that bring meaning and fulfillment. And then the last thing is about seeking support. We mustn't try to do this alone. We've got family, friends, counsellors, the lovely nurses, Rona and Tracy here yesterday, and all our OMI buddies here. We're all here for each other. And it is important to find that support. And I think be selective about the support. You can't go around, well, I found I couldn't go around telling everyone about my poor prognosis, but there are a handful of trusted, caring people, and they make themselves known, don't they? Has everyone else found that as well? From the initial diagnosis, when there's a rush of people around you to support, then as time goes by, the 1 or 2 or 3 who are really there and who aren't scared and who will stay by you there, they make themselves known. You find out who are the ones that will give you support and who you can trust. I'm going to really rush through this next slide because I think this is something that, this is just from a tool book really, and you can apply this to any situation when you've got any difficult situation. And I do think it can be quite useful. Is there a message in this for me in this experience? What's the gift in this situation? Might sound a bit strange. I'm going to come back to that on the next slide. I found a real gift for me in my poor prognosis. I'll tell you about it in a minute. What can I learn from this? What's the most loving thing I could do right now? That's an interesting one. When you're devastated by something that's happened to you, what's the most loving thing, kindest thing that you could do? And it could be for a stranger. It could be supporting your partner who's really struggling to support you. It could also be loving yourself, because we do need to give ourselves a break. It's really tough. What's the most loving thing you could do? And what's the most important thing for me to focus on right now? So here, nearly at the end, some examples of the good that I've found. Friendship, I touched on this already. Discovering the joy and depth of real friends, those who are there for you in your darkest moments. And I'd like to thank my friend Annie, who's here with me today, because she has been my absolute rock and support. Thank you, Annie. This was my real gift. The cancer diagnosis and the subsequent poor prognosis really helped me repair the relationship with my 16-year-old son, which had been damaged when me and his dad split up a couple of years ago. He was very angry about it. It was very hard to get through to him, to connect with him. And actually, this has opened doors for us, and we've been able to talk in a way that actually we haven't been able to do for 2 years. It's a real gift for me, and I'm so grateful for that. being inspired by human kindness. That's a little bit different to the friends. That is just noticing how kind people can be every day when I have been struggling with things. I'm not used to actually asking for help, and I have had to ask for help more than ever, really. And people, even people you don't know very well, are there. And that sort of also gives you the strength to reach out and help other people as well, which is another well-proven recipe for happiness, is by helping other people. This fourth one might be a little bit coloured for me by the fact that I already have metastatic disease. But I had been thinking about this before my mets were confirmed. And it is about recognising death happens to us all, so we might as well have a good one. No point in crying about it, is there really? And I've been doing things that... oh, I'm sorry, I have missed out a really important... Can I just go back to my human kindness one? I just wanted there, when we talk about people helping each other, to acknowledge the Ocular group. It's an amazing example of kindness. And I do... Just on this one account, I do want to mention some names which I think a lot of people here will recognise. People who have just given support to others, even though they're so ill themselves. And I just want to mention Jacqueline, Alice and Margarita. I think a lot of people will. The kindness and support is absolutely amazing. So going on to the, yes, my fourth bullet about death as an important part of life. Yeah, I do feel positive about doing things I can to have a good death. That bottom picture is where I've just gone to buy my burial plot, a green burial place near where I live, and it's really, really beautiful. And I felt so much happiness going there and seeing there and choosing my plot and finding the tree and thinking that my children can go there and have a picnic on my birthday. Each year. It was just really nice. I've started creating memory books for my children, and actually, although I'm doing this because I am, these are a brilliant thing to do for anybody, for any occasion. 18th birthdays, 21st birthdays, weddings. You can do them for your partner, you know, special memories over the years. I'll leave a couple of these outside if people want to have a look through and get some ideas. But like I've done it for my children from when they were born, a page each year of photos and little messages, things I remember, things that I would like them to think about. So I'll leave those out because if people want to have a look, and they're brilliant, they're great fun to do, and it means you get some of those photos off your phones and into something that people can look at. And it's a great thing to leave for people that you love, isn't it? I think it's really, really lovely. I'm getting a friend of mine is really good at planning parties, and she did get a bit of a shock when I said, Mandy, I said, I've got an event I'd like you to help me plan. And so she is now helping me plan my wake, and I want it to be a really good one, and it's going to be a good one, and people are going to talk about it for quite a long time. When she got over the shock, she's getting into it with real enthusiasm, I must admit. And thank you for your understanding when I said hello to my children at the beginning of this video, because the reason I wanted to do that was I've read on some online forums that when people die, I read one person say, I've got lots of photos of my mum, but I can't remember what she sounds like. I've forgotten her voice. So I thought if I said hello to them right at the beginning, they can hear me say I love them, and they don't have to listen to all this, the rest of the presentation, because they wouldn't want to anyway. But so that was important for me as well to be able to do that. So thank you, Jo, and thank you, Ian, for giving me that opportunity. And lastly, it's the good I've found is gratitude. I think it's quite a common thing for people to get cancer, especially something as random as eye cancer, to think, why me? Why did it have to happen to me? And I think probably I've thought that at times as well. But when you step back and you think of everything that life has given you, and you start to think, you know, all these good things, born in a country like this, where there's no wars, you know, a good childhood, family, friends, you start to think, why me? Why was I so lucky? I really do feel like that. I've had, my life has been a really good one, and I do feel very grateful rather than, yeah, I do. I'll just finish off with a couple of final thoughts that I thought were quite poignant. I'll read them out in case people can't actually see them like me. It's so easy to waste our lives, our days, our hours, our minutes. It's so easy to exist instead of live, unless you know there's a clock ticking. So many of us heard a biological clock ticking and decided to have children. But I wonder how many people relate to this in this room. That sound is a murmur compared to the tolling of mortality. It wakes you up a bit, doesn't it? A poor prognosis. It certainly woke me up a bit. And then this one here. Life is not lost by dying. Life is lost minute by minute, day by dragging day, in all the thousand small and caring ways. And I think that all of us in this room, have been given a wake-up call, whether you have cancer or your loved one has cancer. We've all been given a wake-up call. It's a reminder that life is finite, life is precious. We've got one chance to live our lives the way that we want to, the way that really matters. And that actually, for me, is something that really is worth celebrating. Thank you. Wow.